Last week, we talked about how much you should be spending to market your shows and why treating your music career like a real business is a non negotiable. Today, we're going to take it a step further. We're going to look at how to spend a marketing budget, like where to spend it and what platforms. So, if you're in a small clubs, we're going to talk about a $250 to $750 marketing budget. And if you're in larger clubs, we're going to talk about, or mid-sized clubs, we're going to talk about a $1,000 to $2,000 marketing budget. I'm going to break down a real marketing plan you can actually use to sell tickets, grow your fan base, and make every dollar work harder for you. So let's dive in. So for starters, let's look at a different marketing cycles while your show is on sale. So the three main cycles is your on sale, your momentum, and your closing. Your on sale for me is usually your first 2 weeks of when the show goes on sale. There's a lot of excitement, a lot of things happening. If you're not running ads or doing anything during your on sale, you're missing out because there's a lot of momentum, excitement from the venue, excitement from you, excitement from fans, excitement from friends, family, right? Everyone's excited because there's a new show. It's just going on sale. And it's a huge miss if you don't spend any of your marketing budget on the on sale. For most shows, the majority of tickets are sold at the on sale and at the closing. Now, your momentum campaign is a campaign in the middle during your marketing cycle. For the momentum campaign, what you're doing there is somewhere in the middle between your on sale and closing, you're doing some marketing to kind of remind people again that this show's on sale and that this show's happening so they don't forget. It's a very small, quick reminder. And then the majority of it is focused during the closing campaign. And that for me is usually your last 3 to 4 weeks, depending on your audience, depending on genre, during your marketing cycle. So let's take a look at how we would spend these budgets during the different parts of the cycle. So for starters, the three different club sizes, right? When you talk about clubs, you have your small clubs, mid-sized clubs, and large clubs. In the smaller range, that's your 50 to 500 capacity rooms, mid-sized 500 to 1,500 capacity rooms, and then large clubs and theaters. So theaters, these are theaters that are not performing arts centers, right? These are theaters that's a standalone theater with one hall in it, and they also do shows, and they're usually not part of a Broadway series, right? They're mostly doing shows, maybe showing movies, like doing a throwback movie series, but those are the theaters I'm talking about. But for this video, we're going to focus on the small clubs and your mid-sized clubs. So for starters, your small clubs. So if you go back to the video from last week, we talked about a minimum of a 10% marketing budget, right? So the range we're talking about here is on the lower end, because I know people don't want to spend a lot of money on marketing, but ideally you want to spend a little more on the higher end, right? And the example that I always talk about is when we did Joe Bonamassa a long time ago in Orlando. When he first started out, they spent so much money on marketing. They spent money on every different platform possible to make sure people knew who the artist was, right? When you're first starting out, you really have to go a lot harder on marketing than maybe once you're a little more established and you have other ways to market, like email lists and things like that. But for starters, let's say you're in the small clubs, your budget is $250 to $750. I would spend it on Meta. So Meta being Facebook or Instagram. It depends where your audience is, right? Or who your audience is. You should really know your audience. Facebook is not dead. For certain genres, Facebook actually works a lot better than Instagram. And then also never use meta marketing by using the boost button. Always go through the back end and always build your audience. Then I would spend at least $300 on meta awareness campaigns and $200 on meta retargeting campaigns. We'll take a little deeper in just a second. $50 on posters, right? So the posters will be put up at the venue, put up at colleges, put up at local coffee shops, music stores, and so on. And then another $200, giving you $750 on a second digital or social media platform. And my preference of choice is usually Google, YouTube, so the whole Google network, not just YouTube alone, or TikTok. But it also heavily depends, especially on a smaller budget, if I'm able to do any retargeting using TikTok. So let's dive in real quick, a little deeper. During your customer journey, right? Every customer, there's a relationship with the customer. That's called your customer journey. And I have videos on this on the YouTube channel as well. So I won't go deep into explaining what the customer journey is. We're going to focus mostly on awareness and education today. But for most artists, unless you're playing stadiums, nobody knows who you are, right? So everyone's considered a cold audience. You have to create awareness. Also, for awareness campaigns, really for all the campaigns, you should be using video advertising. acoustic versions of your songs, use videos that have done well in the past, right? Anything that's done well in the past, those should be videos that you're using for marketing. And really, the more organic it is, usually the better it works. Usually works better than a music video in the awareness stage, right? When nobody knows who you are yet and you're trying to create awareness. So I said 300 for awareness, 200 for retargeting. So let me explain. When you're running ads, right, with video, you can retarget 25, 50, 75, 100% views. And if you take the amount you spend divided by any one of those percentages, right, you get your cost per 50%, 75%, 100% view. In an ideal world, that cost is 10 cents or lower. And the lower it is, right, the more you know you're running an ad with a good video. If it's much, much higher than 10 cents, maybe you need to try a different video. But for starters, if you are running it at 10 cents, means $300 gets you 3,000 views. To retarget, right? So retargeting is showing a set of audience that has already seen 50 to 75% of your video, another video, a completely different kind of video, right? And that begins the education stage. So now we're showing people more of your content. They're becoming more familiar with who you are. And now this customer is much more likely to buy a ticket than a person at the awareness stage. 300 for awareness, 200 for retargeting. And if you are on the lower side, right, you're only doing awareness. So let's say you're at 250 and you're not really getting to the 3,000, then you're going to run it at just an awareness campaign. And ideally the ticketing landing page, and it should be the same regardless. You want to have a description of your show, of your artist, maybe a bio, a really well-written bio, not just a half-ass thrown together bio. And you also want to have a video embedded on the page so people can become educated with who this artist is, and then hopefully buy tickets, right? And also, a lot of times people click the profile and then kind of dig through the profile, right? So even if you just have a budget for the awareness stage, it's still better than doing nothing at all. But ideally, you're able to run an awareness campaign and an education or retargeting campaign. So now let's look at the bigger budgets. Now let's take a look at mid-sized clubs, right? Your 500 to 1,500 capacity venues. Here, your budgets are going to be a lot bigger because your walkout potential at the amount you can earn is also going to be a lot bigger. Real quick, for the small clubs, I would run that awareness campaign, probably half of it at the on sale, the other half at the closing, and then also your retargeting at the closing, right? So I'd probably start the closing a little earlier and then run some retargeting for the closing campaign. Now, we'll get a little deeper here because we have a bigger budget. But again, for starters, Meta, I would probably spend 400 now on the awareness campaign for on sale and momentum. And then $400 for retargeting during your momentum and closing stage. So again, momentum is a campaign that happens somewhere in the middle. And ideally, I don't want my show to be on sale for longer than 10 to maybe 14 weeks for a small club or mid-sized club artist, because people tend to forget, right? And there's so much else going on. So ideally, I want that on sale period to be pretty short. Again, 10 to 12 weeks, at bare minimum 8, and maximum probably 14, because if you're on sale for longer than 14 weeks, there's going to be many, many weeks of not much happening because you have such a small budget, right? So again, so $400 on awareness for the on sale and momentum campaign to kind of really gather the 50%, 75% views. And then $400 for retargeting during your momentum and closing campaigns. Spend a little bit more on posters and also add flyers now. $400 on social media or digital platform number 2, so YouTube or TikTok. And then $400 on social media platform number 3. Again, different for every artist, right? I run ad campaigns on Reddit, so it all depends on where your artist is. It could be Meta, Google, Reddit. It could be Meta, TikTok, Reddit. It could be TikTok, Google, Reddit, right? But ideally, I'm probably running ads on one of the Meta platforms. 1, because it's super cheap to run ads there, and 2, the retargeting features and the ad features are just way, way better than anywhere else. The remaining budget I would spend on nano or micro influencers. Nano or micro influencers, these are going to be local businesses, local people that have anywhere from 1,000 to 10,000 followers. That's it. And a reason I would focus on these smaller influencers in the local towns is because these people, their followers, are most likely to be all from that town, right? They're not going to be from anywhere else. So most likely, the majority of them at least, right? They're going to be from that area. Because if you have a bigger influencers, 1, you're going to spend a lot more money. 2, who's to say that their followers are going to be from the city that you're playing in, right? So I'll really focus on local businesses that make sense with your brand, that might have whose followers might be fans of your music, or local people who are within your genre, right? And those those budgets can literally either be anywhere as little as free tickets, right? You're giving away free tickets. It could be you're doing some kind of trade, or you're paying them $50, $100, right? $25 per post. There's gonna be very, very small budgets of what you're actually gonna be spending for those nano and micro influencers, which is why they're so great. For certain genres, instead of the influencer thing, I might run radio. And that's only if you're like mainstream or active rock, country, hip hop, and that's it. Any other genre, I would focus on the influencer campaigns, really partnering with local businesses. And again, most of the times, that is things you can get done for not spending any money at all. And a key thing to note, these are just guidelines. This is not how every artist should go about spending their marketing budgets. These are just some guidelines to get you started. So hopefully this was helpful. Remember, spending money is easy, but spending it wisely and how you build momentum, sell out more shows, and level up to do bigger shows, that is where the art of marketing comes in, right? Marketing is an investment in your career and your business. It's not just an expense. If you found today's breakdown helpful, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, share it with anybody. And if you want to take deeper dives and learn a lot more, come join us on Patreon, patreon.com/Making It Academy. Thank you all for watching. Until next time, spread peace, love, and positivity in the world. Peace, my friends.